Welcome back, everybody, to another Voice in the Void episode. I got another special guest for y'all. No introductions needed, but I'm gonna let him do the introduction of himself. How you
What's up,
doing, bro?
guys? What's up, guys? This is Messenger Muzik. I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited. Um, heck yeah, heck yeah, heck yeah.
So for the people that don't know you, who is Messenger Music?
um, I am 27 years old.
Mhm.
I grew up in Minneapolis and in New York City, kind of split between the two. I'm a recovering addict and a father, and I'm a rapper. I'm a Christian and a rapper. However, I'm not a Christian rapper. That's a really big one for me. I'm a Christian that's a
Mhm.
rapper. I don't want to be boxed into a gospel category, but my faith means a lot to me, and it kind of seeps and bleeds into everything that I do. Uh, that's a big one for me. I like to make music that resonates with people. You know what I mean? And tell a story. Um, and so I'm new. I just signed my first record deal about 8 or 9 months ago, and moved to Miami, Florida. Um, and I'm out here, man. I'm out here. You got to check me out. I'm dropping a song on the 22nd of this month, and I'm super excited for it.
Eh. Here's the YouTube so that people can get over here and look. By the
Yep.
way,
Yep.
your remix you had done to If I Die Young, I've heard a lot of different remixes of this song.
Thank you.
And so far, there's two of them I like. There's yours, there's Black Rich Monsters. I don't know if you know who that is.
Is that the one that's like, if I die young, bury me with choppers?
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that one's
Black
fire.
Rich. That dude's good, dude.
That
Like,
one's fire
I'm a
for sure.
big fan.
For sure. That
And
one's fire.
like,
Shout out, bro. Yeah, that one's fire. Yep.
so, there's yours and his. The only two I've actually like taken the time to listen and I actually paid attention, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
cause you don't like I'm picky with my music. So like if I'm paying attention, then obviously, on my side, it's something right.
Yeah.
And you got If I Die Young, and what's the new one? You said
It's
Please?
called Cruise. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So with those being said, what made you first off do the If I Die Young? Like, were you going through a time or like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all of my music is based off of that. Really, that's kind of the origin story of my music. Just like a lot of artists, just like a lot of artists. But yeah, If I Die Young specifically, I wrote. I think it was right around when I signed my deal. I was flying out to Miami or getting ready to at least. And I have, like I said, I'm a father. I got kids. I got a daughter and a son. And that song is just about, me entering into the industry and stuff and how I want to be remembered
mm,
and kind of who I am, as well as just kind of showing off the fact that I can really rap. There's no chorus on there. There's not really a catchy nothing. It just really is something I use to kind of introduce, the style of rap that I do, show off my capability, my talent,
yeah,
and also the context of what I talk about. It's a lot. It has to do with my time, on the streets, like homeless on the streets, not like in
yeah,
the streets. I don't really like to, what I'm saying, push a lot of that. I've been to prison. I've done all that stuff. So it's a track that really talks about, who I am as a man, you know what I mean? And what matters to me most, and I wanted that
yeah.
to be out just so that, you know what I mean? People know who I am morally, soundly, and whatnot, why I'm here as an artist.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Honestly, and
Yeah.
like you definitely got your footprint.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
Thank you.
you
Thank you.
got the footprint. I'm just waiting to follow the rest of the trail at this point. And
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Man.
and I definitely will. Like we've been kind of chatting back and forth for I want to say it's about a week now, and I've done
Yep.
nothing but like I've paid attention to your stuff. I've went back like I went back as far as I could without doing as they said the stalking, liking all the old stuff. So I just went back
Right.
scrolling, kind of trying to
Right.
get a feel. And honestly, like you definitely got a footprint going, and like
Yeah.
I see you going like big places with your music, and
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah. So
Thank you.
you definitely got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And with especially Five, like he seems like a really good businessman. So like
Yeah.
he could
But
help you into
yeah.
that step
Yeah,
too.
the big the big thing with me is like, when he had first signed me, I had some dealings with other labels, some major label stuff, and artist development is something that's very difficult to really find. It's a very
Mhm.
competitive environment. And so you find, in the 90s more, before streaming, they would take an artist just based off talent, and they would kind of make them into these things and kind of do all that stuff. So all the stuff that Five does for me behind the scenes that people don't even know about, right? Even just getting us connected and stuff, is actually not very common. People pay tons of money for it. Their
Yeah.
deals don't come with it. You know what I mean? It's a mess. Which is why you have things like one hit wonders, because they don't have a development, thing, which is something that Five is really good. He does that for me and he provides that for other artists that need or want it. But I think the biggest thing he's done for me and my music is the fact that, like, yeah, I'm really raw and I'm really talented with the rapping.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like just what stuck out to me was rappers that were really good at that. I grew up listening to, Eminem,
Yeah.
rappers that were really good at being a lyricist, and then the
Hey, he's
environment.
definitely one of them too,
Yeah,
so
exactly, exactly. Yeah, and the environments I grew up in, we didn't have access to music. Didn't
yeah.
have access to studios. So I spent a long time, like, in a cell or by myself, writing my feelings and emotions. So I got really good at rapping and really good at writing. Even just being like, okay, hey, check this out. You know what I mean? And freestyling around.
Yeah.
So with Five, he trades music for me. He helps me make it into music. He's really good with, choruses and, bridges and hooks and stuff. And so he helps me take my ability to rap and put it, with a cross genre thing with some, rock and roll stuff. He's got some like summer vibe stuff.
Yeah.
And so it really helps me kind of like fasten in and be like, okay, we're going to make a rock and roll song. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to make this song. Um, yeah. When other rappers, they can't really do that. They got one
Yeah.
genre. And so rap is something that if you're good at it, it is very cross genreable. You know what I mean? You can rap over a guitar, you can rap over,
Yeah.
but you have to have somebody that knows how to, you know what I mean, write something like that. So I'm really lucky that he and I are able to connect like that because he's very talented.
But yeah, no, he seems like it. Like I said, I've paid attention to a lot of his stuff. I went back basically as far as I could, like even looking him up on Google, like and same with you. Like I've been trying to find a lot of different information on you. By the way, kind of a difficult thing to do, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. I have a
but
pretty crazy life story. So if you're looking at like my government name and stuff like that, that'll be pretty obscure and not a whole lot going on.
yeah,
But
no, like it wasn't like I wasn't necessarily trying to find like the government name. I was just trying to see if I can find you. You know what I mean? Like
oh, messenger music.
yeah, like
Yeah, yeah, oh
I
yeah, oh
type
yeah.
in your name, I'm like, what exactly can I find? And obviously, it pulls up your YouTube, your Instagram, Spotify. Then I'm like, all right, so what else? And boom, Facebook. Then you go through a little bit more. You got multi tracks, it says, but I'm not entirely sure. Like it has everything, but it's not. And I'm
Yeah,
sure you can attest to it. Like it's not the details I'm looking for, but,
right, right,
it's
right,
what
right.
I'm getting. It's like, all right, cool. So this guy kinda for the most part, you keep yourself low. Like, you make yourself known, but you stay quiet, like, as long as you can, it seems.
Yeah, I think that like for me as a man with some of the experiences that I had in life, I'm a very, very much, in general, a very, quiet, observant.
Mhm.
Um, I've had a lot harder, experiences than, I think other people might have in
Yeah,
life. I mean, I have a different out view on it. Um, and so I think for me, even my social media presence is a really big reflection of kind of who I am as a person. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I am a very like kind of, I'm a private person, a quiet person until I get on the mic. That's kind of where I let everything go. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And kind of show off who I am. But I'm really big on trying to just be humble. I think that in my experience in life, if you've ever been around a street culture or you ever been to like, incarcerated or some of
yeah,
those environments, everybody's very rah, 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 rah. And I want people to know me for me, you know?
yeah.
That's not who I am. I've never been the biggest dude, never been the loudest dude, never been the look at me dude. But when it is my time, you know what I mean? I know I'm confident, I'm strong in my abilities. And that's kind of the way that I want my children to, see me as well. You know what I mean? I think that that's what I mean by we talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
The social media side of things is somewhere I struggle with because me and my personal life or who I am, I'm not Mr. You know what I
Yeah, I don't like
mean?
to share all that extra, like, a lot of it's me, like, I like to keep the memories to myself, not feel like I
Well,
have to
I like it
share,
to be
basically.
authentic and real, so stuff
Yeah,
like this is what I like to do, you know what I mean? And I like to, explain to you who I am and
yeah,
talk and have real conversations. My music is for that too, you know? I don't really make a whole lot of music that's designed to be in the club and people shaking ass and all this stuff.
yeah,
That's not meant for me. I've been through a whole lot of stuff.
mhm,
And I make music for people that might have been through stuff like had you had talked about before, depression and loss or whatever.
yeah,
And music was something that made me feel confident. It was just something that I was good at. You know what I mean? I was never good at anything. I was bad at sports. I'm like 130 pounds and like 5'6". So everything I ever tried to do that all my friends did, basketball and I got friends that went to the NBA. I got cousins that went to the NBA that became Navy SEALs, like did great things. The one thing I
mhm.
was really good at was music, and so,
But
my
everybody has their thing, and obviously, I mean, you
exactly,
found
yeah.
where you should be.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 And so for me, it's one of those things where it's like, I want my talent to really prove that, because growing
Mhm,
up, life was hard. I was bullied as a kid. I just went through a whole lot. And so now as an adult and I'm doing cool shit and I'm a rapper and, I try never to forget where I came from, so a lot of the Instagram flexing, look what I'm doing every day. I'm still at a point in my life where I'm spending time alone with God. I'm like, yo, thank you
mhm,
so much for letting me still experience this stuff. I'm glad that I'm still alive after some of the stuff I've been through.
yeah,
And so social medias can be hard for me to engage with on a super vibrant level all the time because I'm like,
mhm.
man, you know what I mean? I'm having a moment right now. Like this stuff's new for me too, So, but
Nah, I get that 100% because
yeah,
I mean, like I told you, like, it's hard for me to remember to like when I want to like shoot content, like it's hard for me to remember, hey, this is where you gotta pull out your phone and if you wanna share something with people, like right now is the time, like I told you about earlier. And it's one of the things where I forget. Like I'm not used to like doing that. Like I've been in like a strict thing where I'm trying to not only be or physically present with my wife and kids, but I'm trying to be mentally present as well. And I
yeah,
feel like if I'm pulling out my phone to record every little thing that I'm doing, I feel personally like I'm taking it away. And I fought hard to get back into the mental space of, hey, I'm here and I'm not going nowhere. And
yeah,
like I've personally written songs about that as well. I don't perform. Like I can't it makes it hard for me to perform for people like that. I lost a lot of confidence as years went on. When I fought through depression like crazy, and I lost a lot of different confidence while going through all this. And I'm building it back up slowly. Like I'm getting back to it. Maybe once I get just right, I can actually get to putting out my own music. But right now, it's just a thing where like I'll write it and I found a little app I could put it in, and I have the AI sing it. So, and if it comes out
it
how I like it,
works.
it's like, hey,
It
you know what?
works.
At
Yeah,
least it's there, and it's something nice I did for my wife, my kids, my dad. Like it's been a lot of things, and I keep I keep trying to get myself in like a better situation, basically, to where I can be out there more like that. And it really is a hard thing. So, like with you, with Five, with everybody else that takes that time and actually does make the different content. In a sense, I'm a little jealous of you guys because you guys can get yourself to do it. But
yeah, yeah,
it's one of the things where I enjoy watching what other people can put out. Like a lot of
yeah, yeah,
times it's interesting. It's like you got like a foot into someone else's life, what they're going on right now. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
personally, I enjoy that side of it.
Yeah.
and eventually I'll get to actually, making my own content. But right now, this is what I'm focused on between this and all the time I can with the wife and kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure you've been in the headspace where you weren't fully there with your kids or whatever it might be. And it's like, all right, it makes you feel like you at least owe it to them to make that time up.
Yeah, I was just with my daughter. I got two kids, out of state, with two different women actually. So, what I'm trying to do, I think part of like, yeah, like the struggle with social media too is just, you know, like I want to be as real and authentic as possible, and not every song that I put out, has that in its context of the music, but who I am as an artist, right? And I really want it to know that I'm, you know what I mean, a father. I'm doing all these things, and I'm, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. I want to make music, and I want my fan base to be people that are, who I am at the heart. I look like, you know what I mean? I'm doing all this stuff. I got jewelry, or I'm hanging out with, A, B, C, or D, or whatever. And I just don't ever want to forget like who I was growing up.
Yeah.
I don't want people to look at me and like when you think of Eminem, you think about the kid that was beat up, that overcame all that shit, that was bullied growing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His movies about that or whatever. And so that's my goal, because a lot of people, have been through that, but not a lot of people,
Share it.
elevated and said, you know what? No, I'm going to be something. Like 2 years ago, I was walking around. I was homeless. I was getting beat up everywhere. I had no teeth in my mouth. Life changed around for me because of that. And so I want to be like a testimony to that. Whether my song is a rock and roll song or it's one of them where I'm talking about some of those things I want people to know.
Yeah.
And I want to use my platform so people can see what I'm doing and who I am and know that, hey, whatever it is that I want to do, if it's a podcast, if I want to be a doctor or so whatever it is, I can do it too.
Yeah.
I want my fan base to be people, especially like youth, that are
Yeah.
bullied. I want to be that guy you put the headphones on. And even if the song might not talk about it, you know that this guy knows how you feel at least.
Yeah.
And so that's my goal is messenger music, right? So I'm out here, trying to do all that. I'm on stages, and I'm living that life and it feels really cool. And then, like you said, and all of a sudden it's like, you know what I mean? I got my kid
Yeah.
at home. And so part of me feels like, damn, am I going to be chasing this like, legacy that, is my kid going to be 10 years old talking about some wolf? My dad is messenger music and he's, changing everybody's lives but mine. It would change
Yeah.
everybody's lives and change my diapers. I don't want to be that father. You know what I
Right.
mean?
No,
So
I get that. I get that.
yeah, the last 2 months, I like my manager five. He went to like Atlanta. He did a bunch of other stuff, and I chose to take a little bit of a sit down and go spend like 2 months with my kids and whatnot. Because yeah, I definitely feel that. You know what I mean?
Oh
I
yeah.
definitely feel that.
No, definitely. No, it's kind of like which I know it's different in a sense, but it's also very similar to what you said. It's kind of what Shaq was just talking with one of his kids about. Where Shaq gave up is like 20 years, nearly 15, 20 years of his life missing birthdays, missing holidays, missing gatherings, so on and so forth. And now his son's wanting to follow in his steps basically and get into the league. And he's like, you got to be prepared if that's what you want to do. Like I've spent all this time making up for the time frame. And, now it's one of the things where if you want to do it, you got to Ex accept it. Like, this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna miss almost everything. So,
Yes, sir.
no, you're good. But, it's kinda the same thing. Just like musically, Eminem went through it with his daughter, and
Yeah,
everybody knows who Haley is. He's done nothing
yeah,
but mention her,
yeah.
but, mad respect. He's still
Yeah,
they did
navigating
it.
navigating fatherhood, at my age without a father figure of my own, is pretty difficult for sure.
Yeah,
And one day I'd like to be a good example of, what a good father is. But
mhm.
right now I know that I'm a good example of what a trying father is. It's
Sometimes
difficult.
that's all that matters is just
Yeah,
how
yeah,
much you
yeah,
try.
exactly. And like, it's difficult. I made a lot of choices in my earlier years that,
Yeah,
that are permanent. You know what I mean? And my daughter was not unwanted, but unplanned, you know?
yeah,
Same with my son. And I was just living crazy. You know what I mean? And so, making sure that I'm, the, there for them is really important. My daughter and I are extraordinarily close. She tells everybody she's a rapper. My dad's a rapper and I'm a rapper. You know what I mean? And so she
Hey,
loves
maybe
that.
one day you get that little father-daughter duo on it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got some videos, like on my Instagram and stuff too of us. Like I'll
Mhm.
write her songs and we'll sing them together and stuff. She loves it. Um,
That's awesome.
He loves it. My dad was a very busy man too. He owned a business. He was a musician as well. My dad was
Okay.
always he was very successful. Before he died when I was really young, but he was never around. He was always gone. And
Gotcha.
my dad, I remember once he told me, I'll never forget it. He told me that I was just his son.
Mm.
You know, and at the time I was kind of like, man, that's fucked up. What? But as an adult now, with my own kids, my own career, my own talent, my own calling, right? Um, I look back at my dad and I'm like, man, like he really loved me. He really did everything he could for me, for as long as he was around. And what he meant by that might have been less harsh than it felt at that time to someone
Yeah.
that might not have understood it. But
Mhm.
what I believe he meant by that was, everybody has their own, path, their own calling. And my
Yeah.
dad was doing this and this had been called, to him and he had been doing it way before I was, you know? And so I was lucky to have a father that, did something with his life. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that was something that he had been doing and he had been called to do long before
Mhm.
I was ever a part of his life. He had me, he was like at almost 50. You know what I mean? Like he was older when he had me. He had already been doing all this stuff. And I was just his son. And as an adult, I understand that. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense, dude. Like, you know what I mean? He was just busy. It wasn't that he didn't want to be around. He wasn't one of those dads that went for cigarettes and never came back. He was just busy.
Yeah.
The other side of that, though, for me is my daughter. That's not our situation. I had my
Mm.
daughter before I had my career. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And so I really want to make sure that, yeah, that I'm very
It
much.
it shows, maturity, the fact that you were actually able to look back on it and, basically, build an understanding of it. Because
Yeah,
I'm sure, and unfortunately, there's a lot of moms or dads that are doing that, especially in the industry right now, where they're missing a lot of time with their kids, but it's not necessarily because they wanna be away. It's because they're trying to give them a better life or trying to continue the life that they're in. You
yeah,
might have went through a rough childhood, as you said, but it, you can't look at it like he kind of just threw you away. And because I know there's some people that look at it that way, but
yeah, yeah. I think my dad was one thing that my dad was really good at doing was being very vocal to me at a young age. Even if
yeah,
it was might have been too young to quite understand it,
mm,
always, when he'd always pull me aside for a second and just tell me like, hey, I'll be gone. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, yep, yes, sir. And he's like, all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he was very, very,
okay,
you know what I mean? So I try to be that
yeah,
same way with my kid. Where I'm like, yo, what's up? Like, daddy gone right now. I'll be back from these days and this, that, you know what I mean? But yeah, being a father and just being gone. I was out of my kids' life, both of their lives, pretty much, all of it. My daughter and I were really close. I was there for her birth. I was there for like the first 9 months. But I was really tough when I was younger, man. I was really, you know what I mean? I was on drugs. I was fighting all the time, I was
gotcha.
games and stuff like that. It was really tough. And so I wasn't around for very long. It wasn't until I ended up, getting in trouble, going sitting down and doing like rehab programs and stuff like that. And I was looking at me and a group of gentlemen were looking at quite some time, for some stuff. And I just called out to God. I was like, I just, I don't, there's nothing I can do right now. I've already had done what I did and I got to face the consequences. If it's 40 years, if it's getting gone when I get inside, like a lot of things could have happened. Um,
The
there was
acceptance
nothing.
played a
There
big
was, there was
role.
just acceptance that got unmessed up, and I can't even feel any type of way about it. I can't even be like, "Oh no, like what am I?" I just, you know what I mean. So that's when I was like, I just gave my life to God, and I sat up in there and I was like, "Yo, listen, if I got to do 15 years, or 20 years, or 40, or whatever, my kid's gonna be an adult, but
Mm,
I owe it to her to come out and say, yeah, I got no excuse for what I did and how I was living. You know what I mean,
yeah,
or whatever, and really try to be there for her at the end of it all, you know."
Yeah.
Thankfully, you know what I mean? I believe that stuff. You know, I got a bunch of tattoos on my arms with like, you know, the three crosses and stuff. Because I felt like, uh, I reached out to God, just called out to him. I was like, yo, you saved me out of everybody, of all of us that are going down. We're all going to, end up in a really bad position. Like, Lord, you saved me. And I promise you, I'll go around the world. You know what I mean? That typical, I'll never stop telling people about what, you know what I mean, where I've been and what I've done and what you've done.
Yeah.
And he heard me, he heard me. And I'm still here today. A free man. I still smoke a lot of weed, but sober. I don't really drink alcohol. I've been sober off for like drugs for years now.
Oh, yeah.
And now I make
Well,
music.
congratulations.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and so, man, now I totally lost what we were originally talking about. But
It happens. I mean,
yeah,
but that's a part of it's a part of life. It's like you've collected an understanding and you're making time still for your kids. Like you're
yeah,
making
yeah,
sure they're part of your life. You're
yeah,
not just like, okay, I'll see you when I can. It's I'm gonna see you here. I'm gonna see you at this time. It's not,
yeah.
you know what
Yeah,
I'm
it's
saying?
a
Like there's a lot
sacrifice
of
on
people that,
time.
yeah,
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 yeah.
but
It's a sacrifice on time, but it's not like in return for like, oh, I want to be famous and I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Yeah, you're very
yeah,
right. It's still sacrificing a lot of time, just like, the Shaq situation and stuff.
yeah,
But it's for, my daughter to have a legacy. I think that maybe if I didn't have such a brutal past, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It wasn't so rough, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Didn't make so many mistakes. I think it would be easier, you know what I mean, for me to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna, do something low key and just have like a
Yeah,
normal job. For me, I think part of why, messenger music, I'm someone, I'm very much an open book about the stuff that I did is I want my daughter's gonna know. My son's
yeah,
gonna know. You know what I mean?
yeah,
About
they're
some of
gonna
the stuff
know
that I've
eventually
done,
at
all the
least.
bad stuff, they're gonna know. You know what I mean?
Hey, they're
Uh,
gonna know the good stuff too. They're gonna
well,
know, like,
right,
from this
right.
alone, right? Eh,
But the goal is that my kids will see that and see that like you can have a really bad go. You can make a lot of bad decisions, make something good out of it. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And I don't want them to just be on the sidelines. Oh, my dad's like Drake. My dad's a Lil Wayne, and my dad's a, you know what I mean? Um, I now want them to be like, yeah, my dad was, yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's kinda what we all want. We want our kids to look up to us no matter what the, situation is. We
yeah.
either want them to look up to us or we want them to be the person that we always wanted to be. And but a great song that like that with your daughter, or your kids in general, the what's that? Mockingbird by Eminem.
She loves that song. My
Hey, it's
daughter
a
loves
great
that song.
song, by the way. It's a
Yeah,
great song.
she loves that song. Yeah,
But like it's like that, working to give them a life that you've never had yourself.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm working the same for mine. Like I've never been quite down as bad as that, but my depression side of it's taken me down, like to where I've almost lost my relationship. I was pulling myself away out of all these different basically side quests. And mentally it takes a toll. Like when you're going through everything and you just gotta build up the opportunity or accept the opportunity to where you can actually make a change. And you've made
Yeah.
it. You're pushing music. You're getting this happening. You're signed with Five. He's helping you with your music. I'm sure you're giving him little tips and propos on all his different things as well. And like, honestly, it's good. Like, whether it can be a form of distraction, but it's good. Like, keeping yourself busy, it can keep you from going back to the old ways.
Yeah, having a purpose, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm past the addiction phase for me where I'm waking up every day and I'm like, oh man, you know what I mean? I'm well past that. But
Yeah.
in a sense, messenger music is a way for me to get up and be like, to get up and be like, all right, today I have a message to push. Today I
Yeah.
have, I'm not just a regular person. I actually stand for, and that alone, that also can help, you yourself personally, like, stay on a good track for sure. When you have something that you've created,
Mhm.
in the community around you, especially mental health wise. I really understand that
Yeah.
stuff with like depression. I was always somebody that I grew up in an environment where people just didn't treat me right. I was abused and beaten up and talked bad to and slapped around as a kid. And adopted and thrown out and adopted again. And
Yeah.
the world just told me I wasn't shit, and I had like, bad, like, what do they call them? I was in special ed,
Yeah.
learning disabilities and stuff.
Yeah.
And so most kids, they grew up being told that they could be anything they want, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know a lot of kids that really didn't grow up being told they weren't shit.
Yeah.
A lot of times you see a lot of kids that were told, but for me, I think my genuinely lost my confidence in myself starting like first or second grade.
Okay.
The first couple times I would fail those 100 math test questions on this sheet back to back and stuff. And, I
Mhm.
struggled in school like right away, dude, like off the bat. I was adopted from a different country. I didn't speak English at all right away. So I really had a
Okay.
bad, like, landing in America and trying to like, vibe, new families, the system, language barriers, things was tough.
Yeah.
And so very, very quickly, like second grade, first grade, I got expelled from every school I went to. So I got
Uh-huh.
expelled in seventh grade, almost every single year. But I just found out very quick, like I'm not. I suck. You know what I mean? And for a young kid, you know what I mean, to start to comprehend that, like, oh, I'm actually like I'm not smart. I'm dumb. You know,
Mhm.
oh, I can't do it like everybody else can. I can't get the guy. I don't know why. I'm trying. I can't get it.
Yeah.
Um, that was something that, believe it or not, growing up really diminished me. It's the first time that I remember being like, oh, I ain't going to school. Oh, I ain't trying to do this. Oh, I suck. Oh, I'm not, you know what I mean? You start losing opportunities. Oh, I can't go hang out with my friends now. I can't, join the basketball team. And I joined the
Yeah.
basketball team and realized like Mike is just a movie. I ain't dunking on nobody. You know what I mean? Like, and so that's kind of when I would, I stumbled across hip hop, and listening to Eminem talk about like being weird and sitting in his room and, reading comic books and how he would
Yeah.
listen to Onyx or all these other rappers and it would make him feel confident. And I was like, all right, well, I can't ball like you can and I can't do math like you can. And I'm a problem kid, but you can't rap like I can, bro.
Yeah.
You can't rap like me. And so uh, I would just write and write and write and write all day. And that's
So,
kind of where that fell in love with for me was because that was my form of confidence growing up.
where
Never
did
good at
the
anything
change
else.
happen then? In everything that you went through, where did the change happen? Like, oh, hey, I have to officially, I have to get off all this. I have to, uh, I want to push and pursue music 100%.
Well, I mean, I'd always loved it. Growing up, I told everybody I was going to be a rapper. So I was actually very well known for like bouncing from facility to facility across the country, like on planes and stuff. And I would
Mhm.
carry like giant trash bags with me, just filled with composition notebooks with raps I wrote. I got hip hop tattooed on my ring finger right here. It's my first love. So I always was a rapper. I always wanted to be a rapper. And growing up, it was like, I'm trying to get some money. I worked as an EMT for a while, got back into the street stuff, was selling drugs, and just kind of lost in it. Like every other rapper's, origin stories. I was out in the streets and I ain't taking music seriously, and a lot of people were in my ear like, "Oh, you gotta rap, you gotta make something, you gotta record that. Like, what are you doing?" And it wasn't until I came home in 2024 from like rehab, being incarcerated and stuff, that my daughter's mom, she cheated on me and she left me. Shout out my daughter's mom. I love my family. I love you. Love our daughter. It's all good. But at that time, that had happened. Um, and she had left me for a young man that was really good at stocks, that was doing like, crypto trading and stuff.
Okay.
And it was basically like, hey, you a bum. You in prison. You know what I mean? You in rehab. You on the streets. And this guy can provide for me and my family better than you can. Uh, and so I was like, all right, well, I got to find something I can do. So I remember I downloaded like some crypto app and I looked at it and I said, nah, boy, that's not it. No, no, I can't do that. I don't know what the fuck I'm thinking.
That's hard to understand.
Yeah, I was like, yo, that's not happening, bro. Like, how do I beat this guy?
Yeah.
Realistically, how do I beat this guy? How do I get to a point where my daughter's not gonna look at me and think, oh, my dad's a bum and this guy is doing crypto, or whatever. And so all my friends were like, dude, just rap. And I'm like, I'm not finna be a rapper. You know what I mean? Like, that's just gonna make me look dumb. Everybody's gonna, uh, and so I
You
made my
never
first
know till
track.
you do it.
Yeah, I made my first track at my buddy Brady Fickling's house. Shout out Brady. Um, and he really pushed me at that time to be like, bro, come back over here, record, get it done. And we did. We made a couple tracks together. Um, and I kind of heard the first couple tracks I did, and I was like, ooh, I think I could do this. Uh,
Okay. Um,
and so I was just like, I got nothing else to go for. I got
right.
people, it's time to do it. Uh, and so I rolled the dice, and here I am.
So with that, so do you have other music actually out there right now?
I
Like,
don't. Nope, I don't. Nope. I got
it's not
two.
even on as a feature. Like, there's no like past surname that you use to get
Ah,
by.
no, 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 no. We wiped all that, scratched all that stuff.
Man, that
We
would have been good
published
to
a
go back
video.
and listen.
I can definitely show you some.
Yeah.
If you look at you can look at the kind of catalog that I had with five,
Okay.
on my YouTube. That's just Miko Olson. You just look up my name on YouTube, you'll find it. And those are all on YouTube. They're unreleased, kind of, I guess, because they're not on my Spotify with,
Yeah.
Fire Music. But you'll find even my new drop on the 22nd there and some of the older ones too. Uh, uh, I think I'm going to be picking from some of those still too, and pushing them through the actual label distribution. But yeah, I've made songs and worked with other entities and stuff that is no longer around for sure.
So I guess that takes me to one of the next questions. It's about music. So right here, I actually have. Do you remember the first song you wrote that made you think this is more than just music for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember I don't remember the name of it or anything like that. But I remember
Okay.
I just got out of jail and I came home and I kicked the door open and I looked at my girlfriend. I was like, "We shooting this video. We making this track." I said, we made it quick. I made a quick track and I shot a video for it. I remember the video came out dope as hell and the track sounded dope and I was like, "Ooh," and I put effects on it and I just remember being like, "All right, fit."
And
You know
you
what I mean?
wiped it?
I'm done with this. Huh?
And you wiped it out?
No, no, I think it's sitting on my YouTube actually. The very
Oh
first,
man.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Nah, because I was like, what? Like, you got more out there. And truly, the only video on your YouTube is the If I Die Young. And I swear I've been trying to find some of your other stuff. And yeah, even right now, like you said, it's on here. First thing I did was jump back over to see if I could see anything. But it's only the one. It's only the If I Die Young. But
Yep,
still
yep.
a great track. So I'm not gonna hate on it. But with the music that you have previously wiped off, or even like that song, like is there any of your past songs that you have thought about re-uploading?
Well, the last two drops that I had were re-uploads because I really like them,
Okay.
and so if I Die Young would be considered a re-upload, and the
Oh, okay.
same with this Please would be considered a re-upload as well, technically. Um, And that's kind of why my deal with Five and signing with FMG was important to me, something that, without being going to this whole other conversation about, labels and how the ins and out works, right?
Yeah.
Um, sometimes, you get a recording deal or something and you don't own any of that music and that stuff falls through and you can't do nothing with those music and you can't release things. And
Yeah.
so one of the great things about signing with Five and his record label and going through him with distribution even is, you know, not really, I probably shouldn't be talking too much about my deal itself, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
I own, 90% of my music or something like that. I own all my royalties. I have my own creative freedom. And so I'm able
And
to
that's
do
great
stuff
to have, by the way, because a lot of
Yeah,
people
yeah,
don't
it's a
have
big
that.
deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't see that very often. And so, um, because of that, I'm able to do stuff take stuff that I had recorded, not really finished, or old projects that's somewhere out there in the ether and be like, hey man, let me pull this back. You know what I mean? And figure it out and do something with it. And when a lot of other places, if I've done music or put music out, you can't even find it no more. It's not even there. Your hard work is gone because you don't own it.
Yeah.
It's not yours
Well,
anymore, you know?
Yeah,
So
no, that's fair, and a lot of times, like, if you do, like, you go rebrand yourself, then you
I used to
it
go by Lil Meech.
Lil Meech, I so
Lil
that makes
Meech.
sense why it says Meech next to your name. I
Yeah, yeah.
got you.
Everybody called me Meech growing up. My name is Nico, but when I was adopted, my name was a derivative off of Demetrius. So growing up,
Gotcha.
everybody just called me Michi, Lil Michi, Baby Meech, you know, Lil Meech. And so my friends, everybody grew up just calling me Michi. So you
Okay.
hear it in my raps, I'll be like, yo, it's Michi, the one you counted out and called a weakling. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, but yeah, Nico, Michi.
Okay, so that makes sense because, like I
Yeah.
said, like, when I
M's all
Googled
over
you,
the
that's one
place.
of the things that popped up, and I was like, Meech, I was gonna bring it up. I have it
Yeah,
right
yeah, yeah,
here,
yeah,
right
Meech.
in like, it's, like, 4 questions down from what I was just asking.
Yeah.
But no, so Meech, so it comes from a past name. So, like, I know we kinda been bouncing around, but with the adoption, like, where were you adopted from?
Man, it's such a crazy origin story for me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I believe what we know about me is that that I'm Moroccan, I'm Greek, and I'm Italian, and that
Okay.
I was adopted from Bulgaria. That doesn't necessarily mean that I was born there. We don't have a whole lot of information about me and my origin story,
Oh,
but I was adopted from out of the country, Bulgaria, out of Plovdiv, Bulgaria. Um, and the story of that is crazy. You know, my dad was a musician and he really wanted to adopt a child because him and his wife couldn't have a child at the time. And so he specifically wanted to adopt a child of gypsy origin, of gypsy culture, because of the music and the dance and the
yeah.
culture of that. So they, you know, were having a trouble finding, adoption agencies in that side of the country, Turkey or Romania and things like
Yeah.
that. And Bulgaria is right there, right above Turkey,
Mhm.
like 3 hours from Istanbul or something like that. So my dad was able to find this, this place. It's actually a very, very famous facility in Plovdiv. They've got documentaries on YouTube for how abusive it was and how bad they were to
Mm,
kids. They're basically unwanted children that go there.
mhm.
So, kids, their families, that country was a place that has very pre-Soviet era lifestyle, very, very poor pre-Soviet, lifestyle, carriage, horse and carriage style. You know what I mean? And so if you have a child that is disabled in some way, mentally or physically or something, you know what I mean? They'll just kind of leave them outside and they'll be found by, organizations, humanitarian organizations, and then put in these facilities, not where they're meant to be adopted, but where they're just kind of sat there. So very bad, very famous places uh,
Mm.
in that side of the country. But my dad found a way to get in contact with somebody, and there was a nurse there by the name of Kaliana or something like that, some Slavic name. And she actually stole me from the facility. I was small. I was really small. I had a heart defect. I was born with a hole in my heart.
Okay.
We didn't know that until I was older, which is probably the reason why whatever family had me first had abandoned me. But she had stolen me and put me in a purse, man, and like put me on a Facebook group where my father had found me.
Mm,
And we worked really hard coming back and forth over years to be able to.
mm. Hey, that's crazy because my wife actually has a hole in her heart, and she was always told that it could cause all these different health issues in the end. But so far, she's been good. But oh, that's crazy. So
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
small enough to fit in a purse.
I was small enough to fit in a purse at like 5 or 6 years old. Yep. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it was
at 5 or 6,
yeah, I
damn.
went through a lot of I went through a lot of, like, malnutrition probably in
Yeah.
those times too, but I had something called or I have something called an atrial septal defect, which is a hole in, like, the atrium in the lining of your heart.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
Yeah, so it really
That
just affected my ability to grow and be, and use the nourishment that I would get from, like, food and stuff.
No, I mean, it's a hell of a change of life, that's for
It
sure.
is,
I mean,
man. It is,
a
bro. It is.
and should definitely be proud of where you are today, and hopefully you stay on that straight edge and you keep putting
I
out
feel
some
like one
fire
of those
music.
you ever seen those, like, short videos where it's somebody might drop something out of their car, like a coin or something, and you just
Yeah.
watching it like roll and travel across the world. It's like, oh, how did it end up here? It's like in front of the Eiffel
Yeah.
Tower or something. That's how I feel like my life has been. It's just been like I got tossed out of where I was supposed to be in a family car somewhere. I got tossed out, and I've just been like, like the
Just rode
bottom,
down the
just
hill.
rolling everywhere. But who knows where I'm gonna be next?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
That's
I tell people
crazy.
all the time, my life hasn't been, and some people can say it's been tragic and it's been, a whole bunch of things, but nobody can say it hasn't been extraordinary.
Yeah. Oh no, it's definitely an experience
Yeah.
like that, and that's an experience worth sharing with people. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
came
Oh yeah.
from a hell, so to speak, a hellacious time to where you are today, and where you've been showing nothing but progress.
Yeah.
And you seem like a very positive guy, and obviously, like I don't know you in person, but for those who do know you in person, they probably say the same thing. I'd hope that you're
Yeah.
a very
Yeah.
positive guy, uh, and basically, like you deserve where you're at. You've been through the ringer. You've been basically through hell and back, and you're standing here looking at everybody like, all right, what's next?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's my biggest thing is as an artist is placing my feet down right and having a footprint is being known as the guy that, isn't I mean known for my story too,
mhm,
but really just I really I'm the people's champ. My goal is to really, I see like I tell people all the time, my fan base don't look like me probably. They might not look like, somebody that, comes from my environments or whatever, right?
mhm,
They might be, somebody with some color hair in the front, and some nose rings, or, the white guy that, I make music for the guy that sits in his car and has been through a lot. I don't want to get to these points and like a lot of people where they're like, oh man, look what I'm doing. All this, y'all hated on me. No, I'd really rather be somebody that, you know what I mean? Is known as somebody that, has been through a lot. So you can do it too type shit. You know what I mean?
right,
Yeah.
right. Now, sorry. With everything you've gone through today, and pursuing music now full time with the life that you've had, you said you were a youth counselor. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
time to you, what makes that time important to you? To because you shared that with me in the bio, so I just want to
Of
like,
course.
what made that like such a special time to
Um,
for you?
well, like, what make me want to be a youth counselor?
Yeah, like, is it just because of the different stuff you've been through, or
Yeah,
like what?
definitely, definitely. I think what it is like I grew up in the system, right? So
Yeah.
I lost my virginity in the facilities. The staff taught me how to shave for the first time. I had my first girlfriends, things like that. I
Mhm.
really entirely grew up as a ward of the state, really.
Got you.
All my major, things in life did. So I think a lot of it just came from the fact that I don't have memories after, before like, 17, 18 that wasn't
Oh,
like me living, me pretending and faking to be in like real life. I didn't really go to school, you know
yeah.
what I mean? After like middle school and high school, I was in a lot of facilities and stuff like that. And so I think I just looking back, it's like, if your dad was a fireman, or if your dad was your family members all did something, you kind of geared towards a certain way. So for me, I think that was a big one too. And then just the biggest impacts, I've ever been made in my life were like staff, you know what I mean? Where
Okay.
those my father figures and stuff. So I understand how much, that, how much impact you can make, a lot of other kids, they had families too. They'd be there for a little bit and they'd go on home visits. But I was the only kid, in facilities that had 5,000 kids at Christmas morning, the only kid there, really had
Mhm.
nobody. So when said I leaned on the system, I leaned on it hard. So between that, just kind of like reverting to the only thing I really knew, and then just wanting to be, the guy that I needed growing up, the small
Alright,
things,
well,
just yeah,
so
cracking the doors for people, letting them watch TV, things like that. It seems small, but for me growing
yeah.
up, that shit mattered.
Yeah, you were there for the people that, or for the kids especially, that didn't have, like, what you had growing up, like, they didn't have a lot, which, uh, by the way, like, have you ever tried to do, like, that blood test or whatever, try to see where exactly you're from? Like, if you
I
might be
like
able
the
to.
23 and me stuff.
Yeah, like, have you been able to track
Absolutely
back
not.
to where you are? Or is that
Absolutely
something
not.
you just like, "That's in the past, let's leave that where it is?"
It has nothing to do with the emotional side of things. I'm not swabbing my cheek and giving it to the government. You think that
Hey, no, fair
you're
enough
gonna
with
give me you're gonna give me a
that.
tree line all the way back to Jesus himself? Off. You know what I mean? I can't
Yeah,
find my
right,
second cousin
right.
on Facebook. Off. I'm not giving you my DNA. It's not
Yeah,
happening.
no,
Yeah,
that's
I'm just
fair,
saying I'm
that's
not getting it
fair.
from you. I'm not Google search my foot, dog. It's not happening. Like I can't find the motherfuckers on Facebook, dude. I know where my cousin Dede is. You don't want to talk to me. You ain't giving my damn DNA.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Nah, I get that 100%. I just figured, because a lot of people, like, when they go through the system and stuff like that, like, they want to know, like, the origin, like, where exactly, like, your blood starts at. But then again, like, unfortunately, if you were in a home like that and 5 or 6 years old and you're able to fit in a bag, like a
Yeah,
purse,
yeah, yeah, it fit the
like,
bag,
I
yeah.
I can 100% understand why you wouldn't wanna even go back and look too deep into stuff like that.
I actually
'Cause
no, I definitely am somebody that has definitely faced that head on actually when I was really young.
Mhm.
Like right before my dad died, a couple years before my dad died. We went
Okay.
back to Bulgaria. And my dad was like, he was a good man, you know what I mean? But he also did things that were not the best. So I was acting out, I was a tough kid. Like I said, I got kicked out of like 3 schools by the time I was like 11, got kicked out
Mhm.
of every school I went to. So my dad took me back to Bulgaria, to kind of show me around and stuff. And he took me back to the orphanage that I was adopted from, that little
Oh,
that
well.
that, that famous little place. Not even really an orphanage, right? But and he took me to the front steps and he looked at me and he said, "If you think life is so bad, you think you got it hard or whatever. You know what I mean? Spend a couple hours here by yourself. Remember your origins." And he left. He dropped
That's
me off
fucked
at the
up,
orphanage. He
but
left me
I
there,
get
bro.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I was like, and as a kid, like, when I was really young, my parents get mad at me, like,
Yeah.
7, 6, I would always yell, like, don't bring me back. Don't send me back. Don't send me back. You know what I mean? Because they fucked me up there.
Mhm.
So, going back there at like 11, 12 years old, I was like, I was fucked up, you know,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah.
I bet it was. I
Yeah,
bet
but it
it's
was
like,
good.
"Oh,
It was good for me too because I was able to kind of like, I know exactly where I came from. I maybe not know
yeah,
my biological parents, but I know
yeah,
exactly where I came from. I know exactly where you know what I mean? So it was a good
yeah."
thing for me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We never, my dad and my mom, they never shied away from everything we know. I knew. You know what I mean? We went
Okay.
back there.
So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
stuff
very
like
honest with you about
yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a
Hell
friend
yeah.
growing up that we were like 20 years old and he found out he was a doctor. And it like
Oh, well.
broke him. And I was like, man, I don't know how people would do that to their kids. So I'm very lucky that I knew I wasn't wanted right away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously you were wanted. At least at one point in time, your mom and dad got you. Yeah, you said your dad wasn't always around, but obviously you
Yeah,
were
things
wanted.
were
You
tough at home,
you were just
because
at the wrong place,
well,
is what I
I had a
think.
lot of trauma, right? I had been through a lot
Yeah.
of, physical and, abuse and stuff as a kid. So it made me pretty prone to like violence, and being defending myself and being very like,
I'm sure.
I was a very aggressive kid because I wasn't from the I wasn't like the other 7 or 8 year olds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I really struggled for sure.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, for sure. Like, I know we've talked a lot about like, the adoption and being in the system and going through, basically life, but now I wanna jump over to officially to your music, right?
yeah.
Because, so the "If I Die Young" remix, what exactly made you put your own little touch on that? Like,
Um, I really like that song. I really like that. The Perry band or whatever that did it, it's a really good song. Um,
mm,
just genuinely, you know what I mean? I try to pick samples of music and stuff that I fuck with, So if I'm vibing with it, I'm like, yo, you know what I mean? Try to go for familiarity. I don't like making music that I don't like. You know what I mean? So
fair enough.
first and foremost, I picked this shout out to them because it is a good song. But also because of the context of it. Like I said, I wanted to put my best foot forward in the sense of who I am. I wanted to showcase my ability to rap. And my ability to rap fast, slow, and
Yeah,
switch my flows and stuff. And I also like the context of kind of what it could stand for, right? Like if I die young, a lot of
yeah,
rappers have died young.
yeah.
I ride a motorcycle, man, every day. You know what I'm saying? I get on my motorcycle every single day. You know what I mean? So I've been stabbed, in the face and in the neck, and I've been through a lot of fucking really violent stuff. I've overdosed on drugs, and so now that I'm here, right, and life is going better now, I really want to make sure that people know what matters to me most and things like that. And so for somebody that listens to that song, "If I Die Young," like the original one, I actually very much relate to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My whole life thought I was gonna die young. Never thought I was gonna get old. You know what I mean? At all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so on a personal level then, you said you write the music that or even just rewrite some songs out there already. So what does that song mean to you personally?
My song or the other song, like the original version of it?
Your version. Like when I ask you about the something like this, it's you. Like
Yeah,
you remade the song. By the way, again, I said it. It's a great song. Like I really do like your
thank you,
touch on it.
thank you.
So, but what does that mean to you personally?
It really means to, for me, it's about it's like a flex, At the time,
Yeah,
like I said, I had just signed my deal, I was coming off this thing, so I could finally tell, my daughter's mom at the time and everybody that, I done made it. You ain't, to some degree, like you ain't really believed in me or, it's my, kind of my victory lap. Like I done made it, I'm
yeah,
gonna speak on this. They be thinking it's impossible to jump in the game the way Nico did. You know what I mean? Because it's not easy. And so, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I really want to come off as somebody that's, I'm trying to, be as humble as possible, And so it really, to me, it really showcases like who I am as a person, if you think about it. I try to be, bragging and bodacious, when I need to, and a part of it speaks to me being, like me kind of giving myself props for the first time,
yeah,
really being like, y'all really did this, and y'all really ain't thought I was going to do that, but instead of it being fully focused on like, fuck you guys for not listening to me or whatever, it's really focused on the impact now that I'm here, and
right.
yeah, I'm fly and, I got this money now and I can do whatever I want with it. You know what I mean? But, really why, like in the intro to it, why this song really means much to me is now that I'm here, you know what I mean? I want everybody to know, what matters to me most,
Yeah,
and that, yeah, for sure. So it's really just it's a victory lap in a way, but at the same time, it's still meant to have real like meaning to it. I want everything I do to have real meaning. So it's a way to what I mean, stay true to myself. You know what I'm saying with my story,
yeah,
and just be really authentic with it, man. Everything I write about is really like a lot of times, man. Like it's almost word for word, like what I mean. Really, what I went through, because that's what I grew up doing. You know what I mean? I really grew up like just sitting in my cell and being like, rapping about getting punched in the face in the lunchroom today, and the dude in my cell, you know what I mean, or whatever, or the CO. And so
yeah.
I still tend to do that to this day. I write my best music when I have something to say, you know, for sure.
Fair enough. Fair
Hmm.
enough. Honestly, that's a great response. So also you have your song "Please" once again coming out on August 22nd.
Yep.
Is what exactly can you share with us about that song that connects with
Um,
you at a like a deeper level?
at the time when I wrote this song, it was very, very similar, right? Where I'm, in this mindset of where I'm living in this like torn up, abandoned building, in this trap house with like barely like no floor, roaches and rats on a mattress on the floor. Um, and, I'm come up off this last like 4 or 5 years of like in and out of jail, and just, people didn't really respect me, man. I was getting beat up and robbed and stuff because I really wasn't trying to live that lifestyle no more,
Yeah,
Started kind of like, advocating for things and being like, we'd be doing stuff and I'd be like, bro, I can't do this no more. Like, this is crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to elevate, and so things were getting pretty rough for me at that time, I think that when you have a good heart, I was in environments growing up that I, didn't have a choice. So I had to be a certain way.
yeah,
And so, by necessity, I could act and be a certain way and move along with the crowd. But I think my whole life I was, very much targeted, even by like, even like when I joined a gang, you know what I mean? I was a part of a gang. in my earlier 20s and stuff growing up. And like, I didn't get the family thing out of it because I just wasn't, I wasn't in here. I wasn't one of those people, man. I just wanted, community at the time. And so,
You
you
just
know,
wanted not to be alone, basically.
yeah, and
I
so
get
when
that.
I realized that people around me were like probably really bad people and stuff,
Yeah.
and treat, I just didn't, I was like, fuck, you know what I mean? And so I got like beat up a lot and I got, by my own, teammates, right? And like all this stuff. And just seen as a weakling. And so again, like I said, that's a song that I'm just, sitting at the house, I'm sitting in my room, sitting on the floor and I'm probably, probably got a black eye or something. You know what I mean? I'm probably bruised up and I'm right. You know what I mean? I'm sitting there and I'm, just
I've
going
been
through
there.
it. You know what I mean? I'm sitting down and be like, yo, it's Mish. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And like I would get, I'd get, I got robbed and beat up and dude stabbed me like 4 or 5 times in my face and in my
Man.
neck. You know what I mean? And stuff like that would happen. I'd go back to the house all stitched up or something like that. And I would just sit there and write. I'd be like, you know what? Like, I'm going to make it out of here. I'm talented. Y'all just hating on me. You know what I mean? And it was something that just, it kept me going. Just like Eminem when he would talk about going back home after getting beat up at school. But I was, almost 30, man. You know what I mean? I'm getting bullied at almost 30. It was crazy. So, that song really again just pushes that. That's really my as an artist, a lot of the things that I talk about and I'll never let that go. Isn't
Yeah.
necessarily that you hurt me and I'm never gonna let it go, but don't ever get it twisted, man. I was always someone that was counted out, that, women didn't pay attention to. And it hurt me, and or they attacked me or they, stole from me or whatever. Growing up from a kid to, even my parents, it was like, y'all beating me up or slapping me around or whatever it may be. And so for me as an artist, a lot of my music entails for someone that might be going through that or have gone through that to listen to
Yeah.
that and be able to tell themselves, yo, I'm the best, I don't care, you know. And so a lot of that stuff is just me, I didn't have no one else was telling me that I was cool. Nobody else was doing none of that stuff. So I was getting into my house and I was putting all my nice clothes on and I was writing, I was rapping in front of the mirror and I was telling myself this, I'm this dude, and it's you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
really just telling myself, at the time I was writing music so that I could listen to it. I'd be riding around my hood, you know what I mean, with a ski mask on, bro, and a gun in my waistband, just trying to make it home from the grocery store, dude. Listening to me tell myself that I'm good, that I'm gonna be I, that I'm the, you know what I mean? So a lot of that stuff is me literally just talking to some of the people that, you know what I mean, when I couldn't say it to their face, man. I'm not gonna get into it with you. I'm gonna let you go and do your thing. So I'm
Yeah.
home, just writing it out, writing it out, writing it out. I'm gonna be the best. That's all I knew how to do, you know, just
Mm,
reverting back to exactly who I am, a
mm.
poet.
No, that's it's very fair. I mean, yeah. No, that's crazy. Like couldn't even go home without getting caught up in something and
Yeah,
uh
yeah, and I mean, I use the word bullying, because at
mhm.
the end of the day, I want people to be able to relate to what I'm going through, right? You might
Yeah,
not be in a situation where you coming home from the grocery store and somebody just stuck a knife in your neck, you know what I mean,
yeah,
multiple times. Like you might not have your bullies might not be trying to take your life from you, but at the same time, right? If it's when I was in middle school, elementary school, to when I was 26, 25, it doesn't matter. My goal is so that people can hear what I'm going through and hear it. Maybe it's on an extreme level compared to them, but like I said, I make fun of the kid, or make music for the kid that's, made fun of in middle school. That's, whatever, emo, or, some big kid with colored hair somewhere. You know what I mean? It doesn't really, it's not really meant for people to be damping and dancing to. You know what I mean? I want to make music that matters. You know what I mean? To
right.
people and
Yeah,
instill
no.
confidence in them. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah, no, definitely. And obviously, confidence wise, like I believe some of your music could do that still. And I'm sure it did back when you did have all the others out too. Like I it's about the understanding. I get like I have a small understanding from music, like that's kind of part of my like I guess sensitive side. Like I listen to
Yeah.
all kinds of music and I can pick up on basically like the emotions through the song, through the lyrics. Cause I feel it like, especially like sad songs. It's always like, I don't know about other people, but when I get sad, my thing is to listen to other sad music.
Me too. Yeah.
It like helps cope in a way, but like there's one where I listen to a lot. I don't remember the artist name. I remember the song. I used to think it's a really long song for just like a YouTube song or a long title for a YouTube song. but I don't know if you ever heard it, but it's like when your friend is depressed or something like that. For I don't know. But I'll find it, I'll send it to you and
Yeah, I was just saying, you're gonna have to actually, yeah, send it to me
but
for sure, 'cause I'll listen.
that a song I could feel on a different level, like, not through everything he was saying I could relate to, but it's one of the things, like, through the song, I could relate to the emotion, like, feeling so depressed that you're alone even though you're not alone, or you've got the feeling of being alone and you actually have nobody around you that you can try to talk with or get whatever different feelings and whatnot out, I feel it and, uh, I get it's a form of pleasure now when I listen to other sad music because, like, I feel it. Like, I have a deep understanding for it. Even now, like, I'm not depressed like I was. Like I still go through it a little bit, but not like I was. But even now listening to it, even on my happiest days, it's like I feel it. Like I understand what you're saying. I understand the emotion behind it. I can feel it in your the way you're saying things, the way you're singing the song, whatever it might be. And it makes a difference. And with all that, like uh, throughout your life, would you say, redemption has played a key factor in your life? Like you've been able to
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, right? Like, as somebody that, I've been through what I've been through and I've made a lot of mistakes too. A lot of the things that I went through were because of my own
Mhm.
mistakes too, my own choices and the consequences of those. Like some of the trauma that I've been through with, just going to jail, bro. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's your own fault and a lot of bad things can happen, once you go inside those places or just, whatever.
Yeah.
Redemption is a big thing for me, as an artist, as a musician, I know that, and as a kid, I knew that, music can really, really, really affect how you feel. Eminem even talks about that, he says like, music can be great, you know what I mean? Or it can teach hate and it can use to be, to degrade, you know what I mean? And things like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? It's like these kids hang on every statement we make. You know what I mean? It's like they worship us. And so, he's very right with that, how like music is really something that's able to, make you feel something. You know what I mean? We as humans are really connected to that for some reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to even take it a step farther, me and Five are both very spiritual beings. You know what I mean? Slightly different belief systems, maybe. I'm a Christian by the Bible and stuff, but regardless of it, even biblically, music and stuff like that is something that was originally like for angels and stuff, and Satan was a Lucifer was a musician and played a harp and things like that, and so frequencies and stuff like that, right? And like how humans respond to that and your frequency levels or whatever. All
Yeah.
that stuff is really, really matters. I don't have a whole understanding with all that stuff, and all that conspiracy stuff. But to some degree, we all know that that stuff is real,
Yeah.
and just, what you put out really matters. You know what I mean?
No,
And what
for
you
real.
talk about and who you are really matters, when you say something, that frequency, that word, that noise, it travels forever, it never stops. So whatever I just said,
Exactly.
it just traveled to the end of the universe and back, whatever, right? And it'll never stop. And that's why they say things like what you say matters and there's power in the tongue and stuff like that. And so, just musically wise, you know what I mean? I want to stand out and be a rapper that's not that I don't want you to dance to my music, but it is something that it's meant for people that are really going through some stuff,
Yeah, meant for
I
you
do
to
have
actually
I do have
listen.
songs with Five that I just meant to have fun, just on
Yeah.
stage, jumping around, those are a lot of fun too. But yeah, it's really about, you know what I mean, being able to, you know what I mean, and like my redemption of it. I'm somebody that, I definitely struggle with the sense of, guilt. I'm a
Yeah.
conscious. Hey, we've done bad things. You got a
Yeah.
conscience. And so yeah, redemption is a big one for me. I really believe in the long lasting effects of, speaking out. The Bible for me, and the Bible talks about, you know, s- uh, letting, you're confessing with your tongue. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
and stuff. And you know, even if I'm not necessarily speaking about my faith or whatnot, I'm definitely speaking in a repentant sense.
Yeah.
I'm definitely speaking of redemption. And in need of that, want of that, and I'm always looking for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's always an underlying tone of everything that I do that has to do with like, because everybody needs that some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
no, 100%, yeah.
For sure.
And, like, so it's played a very much so a key role in where you are basically, so,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
with, everything, like, the success that you've been having, like, the positive outcomes that you have earned through your music,
Mm.
uh, how does what does that mean to Messenger Music, like accepting every bit of positive, the success coming, the new shows coming, everything. What's that mean to
Um, I mean, the way that I see it and the way I hope that, my fans can see it too and the supporters, I really hate that term, my fans, because like I said, I was always a nobody, and I was someone that was, tossed aside and probably never was going to be seen as someone that could do something with their life, especially when, I became an adult. So all the W's and stuff like that and all that stuff, what it means to me is, it's a family win. I hope that means
Yeah.
something to all of us, because really I don't, Messenger Music, you know what I mean? That's me and everything, but really I'm here as a voice for, everybody that went through what I went through, you know what I mean? Everybody that, you know, may not be, you know what I mean? I remember like when I was in like my, I was like 19 or something. I was living in Texas. I was living in Frisco. I was working at the
Okay.
Stone Briar Mall, and I had a coworker. Her name was Jade. Shout out Jade. She had a disability and she was in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? And she and I were really close. She was a great person. We were really, one of my best friends while I was out there. And she really went through a lot of, bullying and hate and stuff like that. And so I would say it's wins for, communities, people that know me and stuff and people like that, So I would say
Yeah.
that with all that stuff, that's things like me and Jade and, some of my friends that, I know have been through similar stuff or anybody, that follows me because they know that, you know what I mean? We're here together. We're doing this together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, that's my goal is when people see me and they know, you know what I mean? If there's someone out there that's advocating for all of that, it's like Horton Hears a Who, growing up, I felt
Yeah.
like a little Who and I'm just yelling, you know what I mean?
Waiting to
I'm,
be
I'm
heard.
here, I'm here, notice me, I'm here, I just want to be, you know what I mean? I just want someone to,
Yeah.
acknowledge me too, what I'm doing. And I did a lot of bad stuff as a kid just to be acknowledged, you know?
Yeah.
And so it would have meant a lot to me if there was someone out there that was really pushing that, And I feel like Eminem was the closest thing for me growing up that was like putting on for people that were just really had a hard go in it or just didn't see themselves like they should have.
It would make I could see it. I mean, because he even had a hell of a life, and look where he's
Mhm.
at now.
Exactly. And a
But
lot of people know that. His music doesn't always talk about that stuff. He's got crazy music, but people know his story and who he was. And so that's kind of my goal is messenger music. Not every song is going to be, one of those songs like Eminem does that are super emotional and talk about his life. But I want to make sure the first couple tracks I'm putting out of my imprint as a man that has done all these things that, you know what I mean? First and foremost, you know what I mean?
yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's a win for all of us. My goal is to stand up there and represent and advocate for everybody with, mental health issues or addiction or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I actually I understand 100% what you're saying. I have 2 more questions for you. I know
Fantastic.
I know you fairly busy guys, but, so this next to last is if you could send or show your younger self a song, what song of yours would you present to them?
Probably this one, please. Because it really talks about after everything, you know,
Yeah,
making it out of that environment, and making it into an environment and a lifestyle that I always dreamed about. You know what I mean? Like I said, I was an 8-year-old kid, sitting cross-legged in front of a box TV, at an orphanage, looking at, rappers on MTV, you know what
yeah.
I mean? Talking about some, I'm gonna be like that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do this for a living too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, man, it's a
So
dream come
please.
true. It's a dream come true. You know what I mean? So my please, the single please is definitely the one for sure. You know what I mean? It talks about all of that stuff.
Okay.
Even basically going back to my younger self and being like, hey, man. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna make it through all that shit, all that you getting, you know what I mean, messed up and people and all, you know what I mean, had an ex girlfriend, you know what I mean, and all this
Just stay
stuff or
strong and
whatever.
you
But you're
got it.
gonna make everything. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be looking at yourself in the mirror like, damn, I had to put it back together a little bit, but we did. Look, you know what I mean? Like you
Hell
just
yeah.
yeah, and then maybe I wouldn't have done as many of the things that I would have done. Just knowing I would have still be here in a year or 2 years.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of the stuff that I did that made things so much harder and for, any sort of growth to happen was simply because I didn't ever think I was ever gonna grow into anything,
Yeah.
and so actively, yeah. So please is a good one where it's like, hey, you know what I mean? Don't sell yourself out. You know what I mean? Please don't sell yourself out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. So
Hell yeah, dude. I like
yeah.
that.
Thank
So when people walk away from a conversation with you, what do you want them to remember about Messenger Music?
I want them to feel like I'm different than other rappers or entertainers or whatever that you meet. I want as much of my interactions, like in personal notes like this too, things like that, to be very authentic and real. And I want them to connect. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. So I want them walking away and being like, man, you know what? Like that didn't feel like I when I met this other person, or that other
Yeah.
person. And really, you know what I mean? However mid that may be, my goal is to really, connect. You know what I mean? I was someone without connection my entire life. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
even if, stopping and taking a picture or whatever it is, I'm somebody that I want, I never want that stand feeling for my people. It'd be like, oh man, I was waiting on, like, I just really want people to know. Cause hopefully that when I have, fans coming to me in those senses, it's on a level of, not necessarily like I'm an artist. I'm going to use the name Drake, not because I'm picking on Drake, but first name, biggest artist out there, right? First name to come to mind. But an artist like you would to go see Drake, you're like, oh, I love his music. I want, you know what I mean, or whatever, just simply because he makes good music and he's a famous artist. I would hope that the person standing outside or the person coming up to me for an autograph or backstages and things like that would be there for, oh man, you saved my life. Oh man, your music really resonates. You know what I mean? And so I hope that, some of those, those interactions are really what they walk away and think like, okay, yeah, this was different. Like I feel actually connected. A lot of times you connect with someone and, they say, don't meet your heroes. So I hope that one
Yeah.
day if someone meets me talking about, oh, this was my hero, it really lives up to that standard. Um, yeah, even if it's taking time to sit and talk with someone for a minute, during a show or after a show, things like that, that really matters. Yeah.
All right. No, I get that 100% as well. Like I actually I think I have a good understanding about you.
Thank
For the most part. For the most part. I'm sure there's a lot more we could keep going into
Oh
all
yeah,
these
man. I
different
love
conversations.
talking, bro. We could be here for hours and hours and hours, man. It's wild.
That's why I created a podcast because I like to talk, and it's one of the things I can talk
Yes,
with
sir.
people. I mean, I try to listen as much as I can, but I mean, as you notice, I sneak in a yeah or okay or something just because like I have something I want to say, but if you keep talking,
Yeah,
obviously it's for me to
I feel
shut
like
up.
I'd be really bad at running full podcasts. I do run a podcast. I run my manager and I we have the Vibe 5 podcast and stuff
Okay.
like I don't know if you've seen it or checked it out.
No,
We do
not
some of
yet.
those.
Actually, I'll check it out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely have to, man. It's sick. I think we're on season 3 now. So we do some of those things. And man, I get it, dude. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm a talker. So I guess sometimes I gotta be there and be like, yep, uh-huh. It's interesting. Man, I will sit there and take the interview over. You know what I mean? I'm
Exactly.
just
No,
talking.
and
We
that's
get to gab.
Hey,
We
that's
get to
that's where I'm
blab.
at is because I love to talk. So I like in this, like it's my job to interview you and get the different experiences and get you to share your story, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
especially like if I feel like I can connect with you, like I understand in a sense of what you like, not all of it, obviously. Like there's a lot that you said that I couldn't even tell you the first thing about, but I have an understanding of it. I have family that's been in and out of orphanages. I have family that has been homeless and down in the rut. I have friends that's been homeless down in the rut, and you making a difference, and you're pushing yourself every day. And I'm talking to you personally. You're pushing yourself every day, and you're making that positive change to where like not only yourself can be happy with, but your kids can look back on and be like, hey, my dad tried. He's doing everything he can to show us, we can be happy, we can have this and that, even with everything that he's gone through, he's done it. So maybe what we're dealing with, we can make it through as well, and just be nothing
Yeah,
but happy
absolutely.
and appreciative.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
I hope that's exactly how your kids look at you growing up. And you said your daughter is like all about you anyway.
Yeah,
So
my
like,
daughter and I are super, super close. I had a daughter when I was 21 that passed away. That's what the R tattoo on my face is for. It stands for Rosie. That was her name. So my daughter and I are really close. Her middle name is Clarity. You know what I mean? Because she was like the change around for me to be like, all right, you know what I mean? I gotta make something. You know what I mean? And music was the vehicle, right? But I tell
yeah,
people all the time, like my daughter and having a kid and doing that stuff saved my life. You know what I mean? The music was a channel way through it for sure. Yeah.
yeah. Well, sorry you had to go through that. That had to,
And you
yeah.
know what? It's all for a greater plan. You know, it makes Messenger Music who he is. You know what I mean? It
Hell yeah.
made me as a man who I am. You know, for sure.
No, definitely. Unfortunately, like it's things like that can help shape you and kind of get an understanding of, all right, there's definitely a bigger picture for me, and it's time to push it.
Yeah.
So I mean, shit, that's just crazy. That fucked me up a little bit. I can't lie.
Yeah, my bad. I just dropped
Nah,
the
you
belt.
good.
Now I'm telling you, man.
Nah,
Yeah.
you're good. I mean, I get it. I have friends, I have family that kind of went through similar things, and it's another thing. And again, you're still pushing positivity. You're still doing everything you can. Again, look where you are. You got one footprint in. Now it's just time for the next one, and the next one after
Yeah.
that. And I have nothing but faith that you're gonna make that change in your life that you're looking for.
Thank you. Thank
And, like, I truly do hope you get everything you're looking for, and, uh, frankly, I praise anybody that can, first off, potentially get on stage or go perform the music in front of anybody,
That
and
shit is nerve wracking. I applaud anybody who can do that shit too. Because let me tell you, man, that's not for me. I do it, but that
like,
shit is anxiety striking for
I
sure.
I've
You
tried
know,
it once upon a time, and and this is where, like, my confidence was in a different level. Like, I could have done anything and everything out just to get a laugh, basically, but it was
yeah, yeah,
different,
yeah, yeah.
and it was different with that. Like, that was something that I actually held near and dear. Like, I was trying, and, like, I choked up a little bit, so I was like, "Fuck, alright, I'm done with
Oh,
that."
the first couple shows I ever did, I bombed. I bombed. I've just like had to walk off stage damn near. I've stood there and forgot my lyrics. I have bombed before, you know. But I mean, re-signing to the record label, it was something where it was like, if I was like, "You're talented, bro, and if you want to do this, we're gonna do this." But I'm just gonna have to kind of throw you in the fire a little bit with it. Like I could kind of show you
Mhm.
how to flap your wings, but at the end of the day, like you want to do this, you're gonna show up and be performing, like you know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
gonna do it. And so for the first, like, I mean, I've had shows where like I've been like getting out of the show with five. I've been like, damn it, dog, I'm fucking doing this shit no more, dog. I'm fucking bombing, bro. You know what I mean? He's just like, bro, it happens, dude. Get back and do it again. Like nobody, you know what I mean? Like it's your first couple times performing. You know, I was
Yep.
bombed. I've had times where I've just been like in tears with five. Like, bro, you don't get it, dude. Like, yo,
Yeah.
embarrassing that shit is, you know? And he's really good at being like, you know, just let me like outside of the venue, like kicking trash cans and fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then afterwards he's like, all right, you good? All right, get in the car, let's go. You know what I mean? We'll
See,
smoke weed, you know what I mean? So there would have been a lot of times I'd probably been like, I'm way too gangster to be out in that motherfucker looking like an idiot, man. No,
yeah.
hell no, not doing it, not me.
See,
And so I would have like by my own fucking, you know, power, I'd have been like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna release music, but I'm not gonna perform. So having somebody like Five, who, you know, when he was doing that stuff, and every artist has those moments, right?
yeah.
When he was doing that, he didn't have nobody like I did to be like, nah, man, you could, you know what I mean, to push that. You know, I'm sure if I had told Five, like, hey, I'm really not doing this no more, you know, all right then. But really have someone sit down and be like, dude, you know what I mean? What do you want to do? You want to work on your performances together? Like, what is it that you felt you needed to do? You know what I mean? And really,
Yeah.
or just sit down and just let me freak out and then be like, all right, dude, you can do it, man. You can do it. You know what I mean? that was really, yeah, because dude, like I've been on stage with Five, like him getting ready, him getting me ready, like behind the DJ booth and stuff, and like prepping me, and I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh, like just fucking shaking. I'm looking at like the
Yeah.
DJ, he's giving me side eyes, like, bro, you good? Yeah, buddy, you know what I mean? Hello, hey,
Oh
look,
man.
Messenger Muzik. You know what I mean? So, and it eventually it goes away. Now it's like, way easier for me to get on stage, and the bigger crowds is actually easier, believe it or not. When
Y-
you can't see nobody and there's just darkness behind you, you're kind of like, I can
Yeah.
get on my thing. When there's like 12 people in the crowd and they're looking at you intently, you're like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
so my first time actually trying to perform it was in front of 250 people.
Oh,
And like a buddy brought me up and he's like, do it. Like I heard what you did. Like I heard you doing that. I was like, I got up there, I started to talk and nothing was coming out. And like I've never felt so embarrassed in my life. And by the way, again, this is one of those things like I used to fuck around. I used to get in trouble for fucking around too much. And it's simply just because I want to hear people laugh and shit like that. But I tried this and it was different. Like it was a
it is
different
different.
feeling.
I'm the same way. I can the most goofy dude. I can't. It's like I can't get embarrassed. I be in public acting a fool, trying to
It's
make people
different.
laugh. The minute that shit's serious, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh wait, you actually laughing at me right now. I don't know how to make me feel right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm really
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's one thing if I'm laughing with you, but when I notice you
yeah, yeah.
laughing
We
at me,
laughing at
it's
me. We
way
just eat the
different.
car. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely not.
Oh man,
Absolutely.
because like even right now, like and I guess this is outside of all the other stuff, but what's a tip for performing like that? Because I got like 28 songs written, and I have
Reps.
no idea how to go about trying to perform in front of people. What's your tip on it?
Repetition, repetition. Me and Five, I used to be like, I'm not the craziest performer. Like, Five is really good at it because he's really confident. So he can like take a second in the performance and like take a drink, or like he'll change his like lyrics around to be funny in the middle of the stuff. He's really good at his performances.
Yeah.
And I've gotten pretty good at mine now for sure. And so I would say that definitely, for me at least, it was reps, and that's the hardest thing is you think that like, you just get it. You know what I mean? I wish there was something specifically I could, I mean, we tried every little thing, the wearing, the mic control, wearing glasses, not wearing glasses, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
closing your eyes or fucking, whatever it is, all these different little things that. And really at the end of the day, for me, glasses on, glasses off, little things here and there.
See,
What
he
really
told me
matters.
about the glasses thing.
He did. That was his thing, and it does kind of help, I think, maybe. But for me personally, I don't like wearing the glasses as much because I don't like if I got a video of me on stage or a picture of me
Yeah.
on stage, I don't want my face hidden behind. I got a small face, these big ass bug glasses. Who knows? But
Get those little bitty thing.
yeah, get those like really like skinny ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
almost get the robot ones.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was
No,
that?
but
The old,
like the
what?
cyborg stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in the '90s,
What's
they
the
had
one?
those. Those were
Yeah.
really popular, right?
Yeah, those little thin strip all the way
Yeah,
around, the
yeah,
shiny
yeah, yep.
ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those, yeah.
Get
That's
those. Like
hilarious.
I seen some dude wearing them actually the other day out here.
Oh, really? Yeah, those are
Yeah,
sick.
like they're really
Those are
thin,
sick.
like you wouldn't even like he just rocking them. He's walking
Hey,
through
man,
Walmart.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Walking through
Yeah, my
Walmart.
advice would be reps, reps. Do it over and over
Repetition.
again. Just eventually, you're just gonna get used to it. For me, it's just a stage fright. That's it. You know what I mean? So once you get over the stage fright and you do it a couple times, you know what I mean? Whatever, you know what I mean? Many times as you need to, it'll start to be. It'll take a second. It's not like the first
Yeah.
time, second time, but you know what I mean? And as soon as the shakes are over with, you're not as nervous and you know what I mean, you've done it a couple times, you're cool. You know what I mean? Another thing to remember too, for me, I tell myself I'm really nervous because I'm like, it's 2 minutes, bro. Like chill out for 2, 3 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? If you're
Yeah.
doing 1 or 2 songs, you're on the stage for less than 10 minutes. Unless you're doing like your own, you're like headlining a show and it's like just you and all these people showed up for just you and you're playing a whole album worth of music. You're really only on stage for 1 or 2 songs. You're not up there for more than like 6 minutes, maybe.
Right.
And so you have a really short period of time,
Nice.
um, to actually do something. So you try to live in the moment. and you just do it over and over again. You won't be as nervous, you know? And
Right.
then the first time you actually have a good show and you feel confident, you're like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, but now, like when I'm rapping, now I like to perform. Like, you know, you get this sense, this thrill from it, you know, you can kind of do
Right.
your thing. But it takes a minute. It took me like 6 months, bro, of like every time I get on stage, like, you know what I mean? To the point where like I'd be performing and then like I would like, you know, I'd kind of lose my space or I wouldn't know what I'm doing and I would just stop rapping. You know what I mean? And so my manager and I had to work on that too. He's like, bro, it's just whatever you do, don't stop rapping. You know what I mean? But I would be so like caught up in all this other shit going on. You know what I mean? Brain moving too
Yep.
quick. Yeah,
Yep.
and so I ended up on stage, like, with my mic, like, hanging down, being like, looking around, like, "Fuck, yeah, I'm lost in every way," you know? So it just takes time.
Yeah, I've been trying to pay attention on how some people actually go out and they perform on stage or even just like out in public, like out in the corner of the street, people doing it all the time. I'm like, man, like just to have the confidence be able to go do that is like another level. Cause again, I got all these songs, not even a clue about how to go about it. And by the way, I was in choir, like I made sure like I was in the stuff that included music because I was a big fan of music and I could sing. At least once upon a time. I'm not entirely sure if my singing voice what it used to be now, but uh hey my there's been a lot of things that has happened over the years. So
Mm.
but now, like, getting back thinking about it, and it's like, man, maybe I perform it a little different than how I imagined the song, and maybe it'll work. But it's just taking in the time and thought of how to go about it. And maybe it's just one of those things say, all right, fuck it, close your eyes while you do it or some shit, or
Yeah, I think it
don't look
depends
at the
too, like
people and just yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think that it depends on, like, what kind of music you're doing too. Like, for me, like, you know, stage presence, you know, it really matters, right? Like how you act on stage or how you're vibing or whatever. And a lot of artists, if you go to like, you know, at least some of the performances and the local artists that I hang out with that are really talented, like out here in Florida, there's a bunch of them, you know, but the first couple that come to mind that are like in my personal group are, you know, artists like a guy named Kappa Kush out here. Artists like there's a female artist named Ismo Kane.
Okay.
She's super talented as well. And I like, cause I did the same thing. I just like watched some of them. Punchline is another really, really talented one. You know, Cash Out Obeezy. A lot of my homies are really talented at what they do. Hollywood Hatch. And so they, you know, and I watch what they do sometimes, you know, cause I'm so new compared to some of these other guys that I hang out with. And I've
Okay.
noticed that like they just have like a really good stage presence, you know. My
Yeah.
music's right now, the stuff that I have out coming out, so I'm excited for Please because it's got a little more of like a bounce to it. You can kind of, you know, vibe. But a lot of times, you know, they're just up there having a good time. You know, they're just up there, you know, having a good time, vibing to their music. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They're not even necessarily hitting every word for word like they're recording it. You know what I mean? You're performing it. Yeah, something that
Right.
Five taught me too. You're not recording your song for them. You're performing it. You already have the song playing, you know, so perform it. You're a little different, right? So that's where like the reps and the confidence. And once you do reps, you're not as nervous anymore. Then you kind of feel more confident to just kind of get up
Yeah.
there and you know what I mean, and dance and then get everybody kind of going. You know, I'd be wondering why nobody's like jumping and dancing with me while I'm on stage. And it's like, so I'm not confident yet to get the crowd moving and dancing. Nobody wants to dance by themselves, right? Everywhere you
Oh
go, no
yeah.
matter what, it takes one person to start dancing before everybody else does. So as an
Yeah.
artist, if you're not like, you know, vibing, everybody else will with you. You know, I've never seen an
Mhm.
artist get up there and kind of do their little jig, you know, and everybody's standing there like, what are you doing? What is that? Is that a two step? Like, you know what I mean? You start dancing, everybody else starts dancing. So that just comes with the confidence of it. You know, I've noticed
Yeah.
everybody else is just confident. That's all that matters.
Alright. I mean, I definitely,
Unless you're bad at music, then you probably shouldn't do any of it. But you
yeah.
know,
I mean,
typically, 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 talented artists are very just good at performing. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I've seen
That
people go up on stage. You're just like, this isn't for you. You know, it's not for you. But the music is there. Everything else just fall in place over time.
right, and I have a few artists I could think of when it comes to that. One of them you mentioned, I'm not the biggest fan, I just don't say names so I don't get hit with no thing, but, yeah, it definitely it takes a different type of person to be able to perform. And obviously, again, if you're doing it, you got a new song coming out, which I'm looking forward to seeing the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just the snippet of you sitting on the bus
Yeah,
bench or
yeah,
whatever it
yeah. I'm trying
is
to
you're
get
gonna
y'all
say.
hooked. Want y'all to hear the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Not
Can't give
hey,
him too much sauce.
right. You give them too much, then not gonna come back for the rest of it.
Hey, you already heard it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, so tell everybody where they can find you first off before we get off here, where they can find
Yeah. You can find me on all platforms, Messenger underscore music. But music is spelled with a Z and a K. So it's Messenger underscore Muzik. That's on all platforms. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all streaming platforms. So I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Music, I'm on Twitch. I do a little bit of everything, man. You can find me everywhere. Messenger Music.
Messenger Music. I was about
Yep.
to make sure. All right.
Yep.
Make sure the
Yep. Yep.
spelling's good because I have to do the same with mine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Underscore Muzik. Yep. Yep.
And you're with Fire Music Group, right?
Yep, I'm with the record label called Fire Music Group, FMG. Uh and I think it was originally the name was, Five Fires like Music LLC or something like that. But it's I think we're working on having this whole group of artists, so the idea is it's Fire Music Group. But really, it's about having multiple, hopefully all five genre artists on the record label.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
what he
Fire
kind of
Music
explained.
Group, but Five Fires Music or Fires Music Group. You hear that, you think you're talking about us for sure,
Yeah.
and all the artists that we're going to be signing.
Is that why you got music on your name? So it's a
Um,
part of that?
Originally, no. Originally, like I said, originally it was Five Fires. Like the label was under Five Fires.
Yeah.
And so it was both the label name and the artist name. And then so my name was Messenger Music, spelled it with the ZIK, just to kind of stand out a little bit.
Okay.
And at the time, Five and I, we would, he was building the label, right? He had just kind of built the label, had it all set up and stuff like that. We were both coming off of deals with, other, labels, major labels. And that's his side of his story to tell. But
Yeah.
so we kind of did this together because we were both like, you know what, we dealt with the same entities and stuff like that. And so we were kind of like, hey man, let's do this, right? So we had it under the LLC for that. And our vision for that, right, was the five genre artists. So, he does rock and roll. I got the rap down. We might have, someone that does, whatever. You do a lot of across genre
Yeah.
artistry stuff. But then it was just became something where it was like people are getting confused, and Five, that's one of the reasons why Five is very what's the word? He's got a lot of integrity, right? When it comes to how he treats artists, what he does, the small little things that make a difference, right? So the Fire Music Group thing, I think was one of the big reasons as to why it kind of went from Five Fires Music to Fire Music Group was to simply save the idea for the music side to be a part of the label itself.
Yeah.
So every artist doesn't have to have the music on the end of theirs. It won't be like, the next artist will be something, something music. But that was kind of what I had called myself. And the record label is, I'm the first and only artist signed, besides like Five Fires himself, under the label. And so, you know what I mean? It just kind of coins, kind of takes that first position. You know what I mean? I'm pretty proud to rep the kind of music side of things. Five's from Canada, right? Lives
Yeah.
out there. So I'm kind of he's the Rick Ross of our record label. And I'm the kind of the face of it, right? I'm the Nino Breeze of our record label, right?
Okay.
So Fire Music grew spelled the same way as Messenger Music, just helps me kind of push our label out and stuff like that, without crossing the names
Yeah.
too much. People don't get confused. Five, he's a record label owner, he's a manager for all this stuff, but he's also his own artist, right? And so
Hmm.
it really also helps protect his own artistry too. People don't get confused when, he's showing up as different hats that he wears allows him to have it as well. Same with me.
Yeah.
So yeah. I rep the music in the last name of my name for it, but it doesn't have to be. No, it's not necessarily directed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about that then.
Mhm.
But thank you, sir, for joining
Yes,
me.
sir. Yes,
Hopefully
sir.
I can get y'all back on. That's for sure. Like I'm look.
Absolutely. We'll have to do we'll do it together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, man.
Uh, thank you again for joining me. Thank you everybody for
Absolutely.
watching and listening. Peace out,
Absolutely.
everyone.